Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The late evening breeze rolled across Lagos, carrying the faint scent of grilled seafood, expensive wine and soft piano music. The rooftop restaurant glowed under golden lights, perched above the city like a palace in the clouds. Couples clinked glasses, laughter mingled with jazz notes, and waiters in crisp uniforms moved gracefully between tables. It was the kind of place where wealth announced itself, where every polished surface whispered, "This is not for everyone." Zara adjusted the strap of her plain Ankara dress as she stepped out of the elevator. She had chosen the dress deliberately. It was simple, but it was hers. The patterns reflected her roots, her story, her resilience. Still, she could feel eyes flicker toward her as she entered, scanning her modest attire with unspoken judgment. She straightened her back and told herself, "You came here for business, nothing more." Her client, a boutique owner interested in stocking Zara's fashion line, had insisted on this venue for their first meeting. Zara had smiled politely over the phone, agreeing, though in her chest she had felt the pang of irony. She knew places like this were built for the very people who used to laugh at her for dreaming too big. She walked toward the far corner table reserved under her name. But before she could reach it, her steps faltered. There he was, Deji. Her ex-boyfriend sat only a few tables away, dressed in a fitted blazer, his wrist glinting with an expensive watch. Beside him was a woman who seemed determined to outshine the lights themselves. Beezy, his new girlfriend, or perhaps more than that now, leaned across the table, her sequin dress hugging her curves, her long braids cascading over her shoulder. Zara's breath caught, but she quickly turned her face away, pretending not to notice. Yet it was too late. Beezy had already seen her. Deji, Beezy's voice carried loudly across the room, sharp with amusement. "Isn't that your ex? The one who used to wear the same sandals everywhere?" Heads turned. A couple of diners chuckled under their breaths. Zara froze, her fingers tightening around her clutch. She told herself to keep walking, but her legs betrayed the sting. Deji cleared his throat, looking down at his plate, avoiding eye contact. He neither confirmed nor denied Beezy's words. His silence was answer enough. Zara inhaled, willing her chest to remain calm. She pressed her lips into a small smile and continued to her table at the far corner. She pulled out her chair slowly, deliberately, refusing to let her trembling hands show. The waiter approached. "Good evening, madam. Would you like a drink to start?" Before Zara could answer, Beezy's voice rose again, carried on fake laughter. "Maybe just water for her. I doubt she can afford more than that here." More whispers rippled through the nearby tables. Zara lifted her chin, her eyes meeting the waiter's. "A glass of water, please," she said calmly. "And keep the menu. I'll order shortly." The waiter nodded, offering a sympathetic glance before walking off. Zara exhaled slowly. Don't give them what they want. But inside, memories clawed at her. She remembered the nights she had stayed awake, stitching fabrics by candlelight so Deji could have transport money for his interviews. She remembered the mornings she skipped breakfast so he could eat before leaving for the day. She remembered how proud he looked when he finally landed a steady job, and how quickly he turned cold, telling her she didn't fit the image of the life he wanted. "Too plain," he had said, eyes avoiding hers. "You don't belong in the circles I'll be moving in." And now, here he was, in those very circles, while she sat a few feet away being mocked for the same simplicity that once defined her love. The waiter returned with her water, placing it gently on the table. Zara whispered a thank you, then sipped slowly, forcing her hand to steady. She heard Beezy's giggle again. "Honestly, Deji, look at her. She looks like she stumbled into the wrong place. This isn't the roadside buka." Zara's jaw tightened. She wanted to stand up, to walk away from the cruelty, but something inside her refused. She had promised herself she would never run again. She had survived worse than laughter. Her phone buzzed on the table. A message from her best friend, Kemi, lit the screen. "I saw your Insta story. Babe, leave there before they embarrass you. That restaurant is crawling with sharks." Zara typed back quickly, "I won't. If they think I don't belong here, they'll have to watch me exist here with dignity." She slid the phone face down and lifted her gaze across the restaurant. For the first time that night, she allowed her eyes to meet Deji's. He looked back at her briefly before turning away, his shoulders stiff. The music swelled in the background. Waiters carried trays of steaming plates past her table. Zara opened the menu, scanning through it carefully. She knew the prices didn't scare her anymore. But she also knew Beezy was waiting for her to hesitate, to fumble, to confirm their picture of her as the poor ex. When the waiter returned, Zara smiled softly. "I'll have the grilled salmon, the prawn starter, and a bottle of sparkling water." "Yes, madam," the waiter replied with a nod, scribbling. Across the room, Beezy raised her glass dramatically. "Here's to people who dream above their pockets." Her table erupted in laughter. Even Deji gave a nervous chuckle, unwilling to confront his girlfriend's arrogance. Zara, however, simply cut into her starter when it arrived. Each movement was calm, deliberate. She ate slowly, savoring each bite with the elegance of someone who refused to be rushed. Her composure unsettled them more than anger ever could. Other diners began to notice. Whispers shifted tone. "She's not reacting, she looks so confident. Do you know her?" The humiliation still burned inside her chest, but she wore her pain like a mask of grace. She would not give them the satisfaction of breaking. The night stretched on, the laughter from Deji's table growing louder, but Zara remained steady. By the time the waiter cleared her plate, her resolve had crystallized into something stronger than defiance. She wasn't just sitting there to prove she belonged. She was preparing for something greater, something that would silence them all. The waiter had barely set down Zara's glass of water when Beezy leaned closer to Deji, her voice pitched deliberately loud. "See? She didn't even order wine. Maybe she's calculating the price already." The table of friends laughed, their bracelets and watches clinking as they covered their mouths in mock amusement. Zara's ears burned, but her expression remained calm. She traced her finger along the rim of her glass, refusing to grant them the reaction they wanted. The waiter returned to her side. "Madam, are you ready to place your order?" Zara opened the menu, though she had already decided. Before she could speak, Beezy cut in from across the room. Please give her enough time to check her purse. We don't want her embarrassed when the bill comes." The laughter roared again. This time, even strangers at other tables turned their heads. A couple at the next table exchanged looks of pity and one whispered, "So cruel." Zara inhaled, then lifted her chin. "I'll have the chef's full course, please. Starter, main and dessert. And a bottle of sparkling water." The waiter nodded quickly, scribbling it down, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Excellent choice, madam." The laughter at Beezy's table faltered. Her friends glanced at her, then back at Zara, who had returned to calmly folding her napkin across her lap. Zara could still feel her heart pounding. Inside, her pride screamed, "Don't let them win. Don't let them see you break." She had endured this before, but something about Beezy's voice, the deliberate sneer, cut deeper than usual. The first course arrived, and Zara handled each bite like a queen at a banquet. Her poise unsettled the mockers further. Beezy leaned close to Deji again. "She's pretending. Watch, when the bill comes she'll faint." Zara heard every word. She smiled to herself. Let them wait. The restaurant noise faded in Zara's mind as old memories clawed back. She remembered when she and Deji had shared plates of jollof rice in her tiny one-room flat, both of them laughing despite hunger. Back then Deji had nothing. His shoes had holes, his shirts were worn thin. She had worked 2 jobs, sewing by night, serving food by day, to keep him afloat. "Zara, you're my miracle," he had whispered once after she slipped him transport fare for an interview. She had believed him. Believed in them. She'd sacrificed, pouring her small earnings into his dreams. But when his business picked up, when his clothes turned new and his pockets heavier, he had changed. One evening he stood before her, eyes cold. "You're too plain, Zara. My world is moving forward and you'll hold me back." The words had shattered her. That was the night she swore never to let another human define her worth. Back in the restaurant, Zara sipped her sparkling water, her reflection in the glass reminding her of those years. The pain was still there, but so was the fire it birthed. Her phone buzzed. It was Kemi. "Babe," Kemi's voice came through in a whisper. "I saw your Insta story. Are you seriously still there? Leave before they disgrace you." Zara looked at Deji's table. Beezy was tossing her braids, laughing loudly, her friends egging her on. "No, Kemi," Zara said softly. "If I walk out they win. If I stay they'll see I'm not the same woman they abandoned years ago." Kemi sighed heavily. "Zara, just don't let pride make you suffer." Zara smiled. "It's not pride, Kemi. It's dignity." She hung up, tucked her phone away and raised her fork again. Beezy stood, glass in hand. A toast. The restaurant hushed. Diners watched, curious. To people who dream above their pockets. Beezy's eyes cut toward Zara. Her friends clinked glasses, laughter echoing. Zara sat still, her hands folded neatly. The sting pressed at her chest, but she refused to flinch. Deji chuckled weakly, unable to meet Zara's gaze. Other diners frowned. One man muttered, "That's just uncalled for." Zara slowly lifted her own glass of water, held it calmly in the air, then took a sip. A subtle act, but it silenced several tables. The prawn starter arrived, sizzling with butter and garlic. Zara sliced into it, savoring the aroma. She ate with deliberate elegance, her every motion graceful. Across the room, Beezy's smile wavered. "Why isn't she embarrassed?" she whispered to Deji. Deji only shrugged, unease creeping onto his face. Other diners began whispering too, this time not mocking but intrigued. "She's handling it so well." Zara dabbed her lips with her napkin and leaned back. Inside she was trembling, but her outward composure radiated quiet strength. She was no longer their victim. Hours later, plates cleared, laughter fading, the waiter returned with the bill. He handed it to Zara first. Beezy's laughter rang loud. "Now watch. She'll start pretending she forgot her wallet." Deji sighed. "Don't cause a scene, Beezy." Beezy smirked. "Scene? Please. This is comedy." The restaurant fell silent. All eyes turned to Zara. She opened the bill, studied it calmly, then closed it again. Her heart raced, but her hands were steady. Zara reached into her clutch and pulled out a sleek platinum card. Its silver edge caught the restaurant light. She placed it gently on the bill. The waiter raised his brows but quickly collected it. Beezy burst into laughter. She borrowed that card from somebody? But seconds later the waiter returned, smiling. "Approved, madam. Thank you for your patronage." The room hushed. Diners exchanged shocked looks. One whispered, "She paid for the entire night?" Deji's fork slipped from his hand. Beezy's mouth hung open, laughter frozen mid-air. Zara simply smiled, nodding to the waiter. The restaurant manager himself approached, bowing slightly. "Thank you, Miss Zara. We are honored by your visit." Zara nodded. "The pleasure is mine." Whispers spread, "That's Zara Couture, the designer. I've seen her on Instagram." Respect shifted across the room. Diners who once chuckled now looked at her with admiration. Beezy's face turned pale. Deji stared at her, realization dawning. The woman he left behind had become someone far greater than he imagined. Zara rose gracefully, clutch in hand. As she walked past their table, she paused briefly, her eyes steady on Deji. Then she smiled faintly and continued on, her heels clicking like a drumbeat of triumph. The night at the restaurant played like a movie reel in Zara's mind, but as she sat in her car afterward, another reel started, a rewind of the years that shaped her. After Deji left, she had been broken. Heartbreak turned her one-room apartment into a cage of loneliness. Yet even through tears, she sat before her sewing machine every night. "If nothing else, my hands will save me," she whispered. She remembered stitching dresses by candlelight because the electricity bill had gone unpaid. She remembered walking through muddy Lagos markets, fabric samples clutched in her bag, begging vendors to give her credit until sales came through. "Madam, this fabric no be free," one trader had said, shaking his head. But Zara always pleaded gently, promising to pay. And she always kept her word. Slowly her name grew. One bride told another, one tailor whispered about her neat stitches, one photograph of her designs went viral on Instagram. And through the storms she didn't stop. She fell asleep beside fabric rolls, woke up with needle pricks in her fingers, but with each passing month her dreams stitched themselves into reality. Her brand, Zara Couture, was born from sweat and sacrifice, not luck. Now, years later, Zara stood in front of her flagship boutique in Victoria Island, its glass windows gleaming. Inside, mannequins wore her Ankara gowns, blending traditional roots with modern luxury. Employees greeted her with respect. "Good morning, madam." Her assistant, Ifioma, hurried over. "The London boutique just confirmed, they sold out last night." Zara smiled. "Good. Ship another collection." Her wealth was no longer in question. But she wore it lightly, dressing simply, eating plainly, speaking softly. People often mistook her for ordinary until they saw her signature on a contract or her name in a magazine. That night at the restaurant, the platinum card wasn't about showing off. It was proof to herself, she had made it without bending her dignity. She had become what Deji once thought she couldn't be. Back at the restaurant, as she rose to leave, a man in a tailored gray suit intercepted her. "Excuse me, are you Zara? Zara Couture?" She blinked. "Yes." He extended his hand warmly. "I'm Mr. Ajayi, CEO of Regal Luxe. My wife adores your designs. Would you consider a collaboration with us?" Zara raised her brows slightly. "Of course. I'd be honored. Paparazzi cameras flashed nearby. Guests pulled out phones, recording. Within minutes, photos of Zara shaking hands with a high-profile client began circulating online. What Beezy had intended as her humiliation had instead become her launchpad. At their table, Beezy's hands trembled as she grabbed Deji's sleeve. "Why didn't you tell me she was someone?" Deji stared, speechless. "You said she was poor, that she was nothing." Beezy hissed, panic rising in her throat. Deji shook his head slowly. "I didn't know." His eyes followed Zara, a new respect dawning on him. Beezy's face twisted. "So what? Now everyone's looking at me like I'm the fool. She made me look stupid." Deji finally spoke, voice low. "No, Beezy. You made yourself look stupid." As Zara left the restaurant, the manager personally escorted her, bowing slightly. "We are honored, madam. Please visit again." The crowd parted for her like royalty. Heads turned, whispers carried, "That's the one they mocked." Meanwhile, Beezy and Deji sat frozen at their table, abandoned by the same eyes that once laughed along. The mockers had become the mocked. For the first time, Beezy's confidence cracked. She folded her arms tightly, trying to hide behind her glass. Deji sat in silence, shame pressing down on him like a weight. Outside, Zara walked gracefully toward her car, heels clicking against the pavement. "Zara?" a voice called behind her. She turned. Deji jogged up, face flushed, tie slightly loosened. "Please, wait," he said, breathless. Zara crossed her arms. "What do you want, Deji?" "I made a mistake," he said quickly. "I was blind. I didn't see who you'd become. Can we start over?" Zara's laugh was soft, bitter. "Start over? You left me when I was nothing. And now, when I am something, you come crawling back." His shoulders slumped. "I was young, foolish." "No," she interrupted firmly. "You were selfish. And I've outgrown you." She turned, unlocked her car and drove off, leaving him standing alone. By morning the internet was ablaze. Woman mocked for being poor pays everyone's bill at luxury restaurant. Clips of Zara sliding her platinum card spread across social media. Hashtags like #SilentBillionaire and #ZaraCouture trended worldwide. On Twitter, someone wrote, "Dignity louder than money." She won without shouting. On Instagram, fashion bloggers dissected her dress, praising her authenticity. Zara woke to hundreds of missed calls. Her assistant grinned. "Madam, your name is everywhere. Orders are flooding in. The world finally sees you." Zara smiled faintly. "Let them." Within days, Zara Couture's website crashed from overwhelming traffic. International magazines called for interviews. Fashion houses in Paris and Milan sent invitations. "Your story is inspiring women across Africa," one journalist told her. "From heartbreak to empire." Her designs sold out before production could catch up. Investors scrambled to partner with her. What had begun as a night of humiliation had turned into the spark of a global empire. Zara stood at her showroom watching employees package orders, pride swelling in her chest. "This is just the beginning," she whispered. Meanwhile, Beezy's life spiraled downward. Whispers followed her wherever she went. "That's the one who mocked Zara Couture." Clients withdrew invitations, ashamed to be linked to her cruelty. Deji grew distant. Their once glamorous outings turned into silent dinners. One evening he snapped, "You embarrassed yourself, Beezy." "Not Zara. She's thriving and we're sinking." Beezy's voice shook. "You're blaming me? You were the one who left her." But deep down she knew the truth. Her arrogance had backfired and the world had turned its back on her. Deji stood in front of the boutique on Victoria Island, his reflection caught in the glass doors. His palms were sweaty, his heart unsteady. Inside, mannequins in Zara's bold Ankara gowns seemed to mock him silently, reminding him of the woman he had once discarded. He pushed the door open. The boutique air smelled of luxury perfume and polished wood. Customers browsed racks while assistants in matching uniforms smiled politely. At the far end, Zara stood behind a counter, signing papers with her assistant, Ifeoma. She wore a simple cream blouse tucked into high-waisted trousers, her natural coils styled elegantly. Her presence radiated quiet power. "Zara," Deji said, his voice low, almost breaking. She looked up, her expression unreadable. "Deji." He swallowed hard, walking closer. "I know I don't deserve to stand here. But I came because I can't stop thinking about that night. About you." Her pen clicked shut. "What is it you want, Deji?" He fumbled. "I was blind before. Foolish. I didn't see your worth. But now I know. You're the kind of woman I always needed." Zara studied him for a long moment, her eyes sharp. No, Deji. You needed a helper. Someone to build you while you tore them down. But she leaned forward, her voice calm but cutting, I became a queen instead. His throat tightened. I regret leaving you, Zara. Every day. She shook her head softly. Regret is yours to carry. It doesn't belong to me. Customers nearby pretended to browse, but they listened closely, eyes darting between the pair. The story of the restaurant had already spread across Lagos. Now this scene only added to the legend. Deji's voice cracked. Can we try again? I can change. I can. Deji, she interrupted. You had your chance when I had nothing. You chose busy. You chose status over loyalty. And now that the tables have turned, you think you can rewrite history? No. He blinked rapidly, tears threatening. So this is it? This is closure, she replied firmly. Not revenge. Not anger. Just truth. He stood frozen, her words pressing into him like weights. His shoulders slumped as he turned and walked toward the door. At the exit he looked back once more. Zara was already speaking with another client, her laughter light, her focus elsewhere. For the first time in his life, Deji understood the true meaning of loss. Not losing a lover but losing the chance to ever be worthy of the woman he once had. And that regret, he realized, would never leave him. Months later, Zara stood at the entrance of an international gala in London. Flashbulbs lit up the night as photographers shouted her name. She walked the red carpet in one of her own designs, a floor-length Ankara gown blended with silk, regal and radiant. Zara. Over here, reporters called. She smiled gracefully, pausing for a few photos, then entered the grand hall where the event was underway. The chandeliers glittered above, and the air buzzed with chatter from the world's elites. On stage, the announcer's voice boomed, Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest of honor, Zara Adeyemi, the visionary founder of Zara Couture. Applause thundered. Zara ascended the stage, her steps measured, her head held high. She reached the podium and looked out over the crowd. I was once told, she began, her voice steady, that I didn't belong in certain spaces. That poverty disqualified me from dignity. That I was too plain to stand beside greatness. The hall grew silent, every ear tuned. But what I learned, she continued, is that dignity is not in your clothes, your shoes, or even the weight of your purse. It is in the resilience of your heart, the strength of your work, and the refusal to bow to humiliation. Her words struck deep. Some dabbed their eyes, others nodded solemnly. I was mocked for being poor, laughed at for daring to sit where I wasn't invited. But I did not respond with anger. I responded with grace. And that night I paid what no one else could, not just a bill but the price of self-respect. The audience erupted into applause. Cameras flashed wildly. Later, as Zara mingled, influential figures approached her one by one. Designers, CEOs, politicians, each eager to shake her hand, to partner with her brand. She accepted with calm dignity, never forgetting the fire that had shaped her. Across the ocean in Lagos, Deji watched clips of her speech on his phone. Alone in his small apartment, far smaller than the life he once flaunted, he whispered to himself, that could have been me beside her. But it never would be. Back at the gala, Zara stood near the balcony overlooking the Thames. Her assistant approached. Madam, the world is yours now. Zara smiled faintly. The world was always mine. I just needed to claim it. She turned back toward the hall, where applause still echoed, where cameras still searched for her. Her story was no longer about the night she was mocked, nor about the people who once doubted her. It was about transformation, about quiet strength, about paying what no one else could, the price of dignity, perseverance, and triumph. And as she raised her glass in a silent toast to herself, she knew one thing for certain. She had not just silenced her past. She had redefined it forever. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe, and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.